He has a 1-1 count. That one's struck high. Left side. That one's going. That's out of here off the You have to be kidding me. Fireworks. Here you go.
16 teams are all that's left, Andrew, in Class 1A and 2A, and we are here this afternoon to recap what happened last night. I'm finally back. I've been in North Dakota for 4 days. Andrew's been holding it down on the YouTube and everything, but I'm happy to be back just in time for what is going to be the greatest week of the entire year. And today we're just going to kind of recap what happened yesterday. We're going to go a little bit into the bracket, but we're gonna do that later. Do a full bracket breakdown and everything. Coming this weekend or right before the state tournament. But Andrew, first thoughts. Last night, Class 1A, 2A. What really caught your attention? What was the score or the team that really caught you off guard?
Well, 2A just in general went. You know what happened last year? We're going to do it again this year. And you've got some of the big names not there. I mean, this is incredible. I love how it breaks down. In 2A, you've got a first timer in AP Appleton Parkersburg. You got Sheraton taking down a big dog. Those two were huge for me. I didn't know if that was going to happen. And then Pleasantville, they have just shown that, man, early in the season doesn't matter anymore. They get there. Wilton gets back in there. They were a team we covered a couple of years ago. But wow, what an absolute smorgasbord it was. And then I got to give a shout out to Bedford in 1A. I got to give a shout out to what they were able to do. It was tough. I mean, when you've got Martinsdale, St. Mary's, Lone Tree, you got Fremont Mills, you got a lot of Tri-Center. You got big time teams in there. You come out of there strong. That's really exceptionally hard to do. So, I thought we had such a plethora of teams get the upset. But if you had to go ahead and say, hey, what is the biggest upset or what's the biggest thing I had my eye on? And it didn't really happen in the sub-state final in Class 2A Sub-State 2. It happened in the district championship. Appleton Parkersburg blanks West Marshall. And, Cade, you got the chance to see them more than I did this year. West Marshall they were on fire, unbeatable, unstoppable, and yet here we are. They didn't make the sub-state final. So that, for me, was the biggest surprise. But I think 2A in general has now, for the second straight year, found a way to make us go, well, we don't know what's going on now.
Yeah, no doubt. I think 1A we saw a little bit more of the top dogs get there. It wasn't easy for a lot of them, but
No.
Definitely a lot more of the ranked teams in 2A at this point. You're right. It's just it's anyone's ball game. I mean, you got some of the familiar faces. You have Underwood there. You have Sumner Fredericksburg there. You have New Hampton there that are kind of like the provens in the Class 2A this year. But besides that, man, that thing's wide open. But let's get started with Class 1A before we move over there. Sub-state number 1, Andrew, Akron Westfield. You got to see them. It was a tough loss for them, the game that you saw them, but you knew what they were capable of. We kind of thought this. I mean, they stayed at number 1 heading into the postseason. Here they are. They run through their district. They get the sub-state championship win in convincing fashion against a good KP team. Akron Westfield, I think this is deservingly so the number 1 seed in the bracket heading into the Class 1A state tournament.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, they got the revenge win over Galen Catholic from last year's postseason. They managed to do that, and Gaswint is by far, I think, again, underclassman, but one of the more exceptional pitchers in the entire state. Less than 30 pitchers across all of Iowa have put up 90-plus strikeouts. He's one of them, and he is by far, I think they have a good shot. I have a huge shot to go there because they've got a pretty good matchup here. The last time they went to the state tournament, they had a guy with 80-plus strikeouts and 50-plus strikeouts. You get that here, 90-plus, 50-plus with McCauley in there as well. I think that they have what it takes to get them 2 wins and get them deep into the state tournament here. I like their chances a lot, and so they earned that. They got through it, a tough one. Galen Catholic's always hard to beat a team 3 times, so they managed to do that though. So good job for AW.
Moving on to sub-state number 2, the team that you saw them play, the 2 seed, pretty obviously the 2 seed or right behind them. You could argue this could be the 1 seed too, Remsen St. Mary's. A little bit of a game that we thought could be a trap with Coon Rapids Baird. I think, Andrew, you and I both had Coon Rapids and Remsen squaring off in this sub-state final.
Yep.
So kudos to us for actually nailing one of them. It seems like every other sub-state just went totally sideways compared to what we thought. But no, Remsen St. Mary's, they get the win over Coon Rapids Baird. Pitched, I mean, the pitching was there. Colin Homan, he's the guy that you need to know here. They barely snuck by Woodbine in that district final, but they kind of took it to CRB, and this is a Remsen team. It's been there, done that in this postseason. They're entering as the 2 seed, but in terms of experience, in postseason experience, they're second to none in terms of having that ability to play at Merchants Park in the past. So, what's your kind of expectations for Remsen St. Mary's heading into Merchants Park?
Well, they got Dana Laux, which I vividly recall is one of the clutch hitters for them. He was a walk-off one in the game we broadcasted. He was the walk-off homer. With this, it's a game about how close can you keep it, and that's what Remsen St. Mary's does. You know what? That 9th consecutive state tournament appearance for the right reasons here, and that it's because this program has done that time and time again. They are 8th all time in state tournament wins, and I think that they have a good shot here. It could be an all War Eagle Conference title match. It could be.
Yeah.
If you look at it, and so I like what they've gone. You mentioned Holman. You mentioned guys that really have been there. But I like it. This is a team that keeps with you late, and then has the ability with one swing to put it into the win column. So, Remsen, that's kind of their bread and butter. I mean, we'll get into that more, but that's kind of what's the big game plan for them going forward. I can only assume, and for teams trying to stop them, jump on them. Get that early 3-0 lead within the first 3 innings. Jump, and make it impossible to come back, because otherwise, Remsen St. Mary's will take the dub.
Your 3 seed entering the Class 1A state tournament, really, really good 3 seed here. Newman Catholic, they get the win over Bishop Garrigan, 10-3. It was Malachi O'Brien striking out 13 guys in 5 2/3. Newman Catholic, they got a really dangerous 1-2 punch with O'Brien and Fitzsimmons. They got Toby Keston obviously coming out of the pen too. Adam Heinrich. This team has 4 guys with 40+ innings entering the state tournament. And now, when you enter the state tournament, it's you could rely on your top guys because you only need to win so many games, but it's nice having that depth if one of them gets in trouble. Like I said, 4 guys with 40+ innings of pitching, with innings pitched under their belt, is a huge plus to have. And this is a team that obviously played pretty well in their sub-state. Nothing too crazy. They snuck by West Fork in what was a little bit of a close one, but really they took it to a good Bishop Garrigan team. And Newman Catholic, you talked all year, Andrew. This is one of the better teams in Class 1A. They've played up a lot. They've gotten a lot of massive wins. And like I said, this is a scary 3 seed, and this is a team that has a higher ceiling than a 3 seed at the state tournament.
Oh, they sure do. And I mean, with 4 guys at 30+ total bases, 40+ total bases, I should say, and then 5-6 guys with 10 or more walks, they match what you talked about offensively, right? And so pitching wise, offensive wise, this is a team that for 4 or 5 years, it's been Douglas Taylor, it's been the Max Burt show. I mean, they have run with it. Vinny Jocelyn, other guys like that have been there. We mentioned Peterson, we mentioned Keston. They have been there alongside that. So I think that this is a team that's just got it, and I think this is where they want to be, because you look at the recent history for them. They've been top dogs. They haven't done as well as they would have wanted to in the postseason, let alone the state tournament. So I think this is great for them. They're sitting here going, man, we're not the number 1 or number 2 dogs. We can find a way to somewhat go under the radar, although it's kind of impossible. But, other teams are shining above them as well. So I think this is where you want to be if you're the Newman Catholic Knights, and you're kind of make your way as deep as you can.
Hard to believe this team is a 4 seed entering the state tournament, Andrew, and that proves the kind of upper echelon of Class 1A that we really have in this state tournament. Linville Sully, it wasn't easy. A pretty crazy trap game with Eli Christensen and company coming to town. You got to give your roses to him, man. He shut this Linville Sully offense down for a large part. It went to 9 innings. The Hawks found a way to get it done through 9 innings. I mean, Linville Sully, I feel like everyone talks about the offense. The offensive numbers are crazy. This team has not allowed a run in the last 3 postseason games. They've got the pitching to do it. They used Mason and Lucas Seek last night. Linville Sully's deep. They've been here. Obviously, last year they experienced what it's like to play close games at Merchants Park. It didn't go their way last year. You know this team is hungry. I'm happy for this team to get back, just how last year ended. For a 4 seed, this is going to be intriguing. A matchup with Sigourney. But Andrew, what are your kind of thoughts and expectations for Linville Sully entering a second straight year at the state tournament?
This is experience. This is
Yeah.
experience now. Like you mentioned, they've got it. They got it, Pat. You went through one of the toughest arms that you'll probably face. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything against what you'll see at state, but Eli Christensen is a guy who about took down a 4A squad in Ankeny earlier this season. They've got it down, Pat. And kudos again. I'll say kudos like you did to Ankeny Christian. They did everything in their power and more. Sometimes it just doesn't pan out that way. But Linville Sully, they've got this is what really highlights them for me because they found a way to win the low scoring games. How many times, Kate, have you and I seen big time offenses, West Marshall, for example, go in and they throughout the regular season dominate in the postseason? It just doesn't happen for them. We've seen that too many times to count, at least in my estimation. So when I see a team like Linville Sully who can dominate offensively, still win those 1-0 ball games, that tells me that it's their time. They're proven, they're ready, they're tested, and I feel sorry for anyone who has to go up against them because it's going to be the biggest challenge that you've had all season.
Well, the team that is going to go up against them, the 5 seed, Sigourney, team that's just been under the radar. I mean, we've talked about them, but nothing like in particular. They took 2 losses to end their regular season. They've only had 4 all year. Kind of stumbling in, and they find a way. They beat English Valleys, they beat Lone Tree, they beat BGM, all kind of expected. But then you draw Burlington Notre Dame, and everyone's kind of thinking, man, the Nikes, this is a top 3-4 team in Class 1A. There's no way they do it, and they do it. They score 4 in the 5th. They beat the Nikes. I don't have stats in for them. I don't know who threw, but they're led by the Clarahan brothers, freshman and junior. So they're both back next year. If you want to foreshadow a little bit, but Sigourney, I mean, a team just been quiet. They're going to get the task of Linville Sully in that 4-5 matchup at Merchants Park. 21-4 for Sigourney. There's no slight there, and Andrew, this could be a sleeper team. The Clarion brothers, 63 Ks, 48 Ks, 38 and 36 innings. These 2 guys are going to lead the way for them heading into that state tournament.
Well, and I got to tell you what, too, they're going to match it offensively what they give you on the mound here. Not only Clarahan, as we mentioned, the junior Caden Clarahan leading in terms of total bases on the year for them, but Burns, Moore, McKay are guys that have a lot to do. And you take a look at it. How many guys with 15 or more walks on the season? You got 6 guys with 15 or more of those. They are patient. They're ready. They sit behind. And sometimes it doesn't pan off as well as certainly they would have liked. But this team is very, very capable of scoring. In fact, I believe over half of their runs have come in the last 3 innings, 3 to 4 innings of ball games. So they know what it takes to get the wins late. They can hover around. They can pick you across. And when it comes to what this team is capable of doing, certainly they would love to showcase more than just their bats, more than just their pitching here. Jake Moore, as I mentioned, he's going to be the guy that one of those typical guys to lead off, get on early, and to swim around the base paths quickly here. 23 stolen bases. So I think they have a lot of firepower. This is going to be a matchup where I think they're gonna showcase what they have on the base path. So it's going to be tough. No pitcher is going to feel comfortable. So if you're up there, get comfortable being uncomfortable, especially against the Savages.
Well, the 6th seed heading into the state tournament, Andrew, this was a sub-state that we talked about when we did our show. We're like, whoever makes it out of this deserves to be here. And I don't know if any of us pegged South Winneshiek. Maybe we should have, considering the been there, done that factor. But they get out of a sub-state with Key, Don Bosco, and St. Ansgar. Obviously, South Winneshiek was what took down the Dons, who took down St. Ansgar in their district final. They won their last games by just 2 runs. They're winning close games. And the name you got to know here is sophomore Braden Todd in the box. He was a member of our top 100 list. Him and Carson Streeter actually are a pair of sophomores that are some people to look out for. Streeter actually leads them in innings pitched. I'm guessing he's going to go against Newman Catholic in that quarterfinal game. Andrew, they made it out. No one thought I mean, we didn't think South Winneshiek was going to do it. I'm sure they figured they were going to do it. What's to like about the Warriors in their, I believe, their second straight year again, going back to Merchants Park?
Yeah, well, man, this is you mentioned guys like Streeter, and of course, there's also guys like Braden Todd, Parker Temp. Those guys have all. What you see here is you get 5 guys with 40 plus total bases on the year. Everyone's hitting pretty well. I mean, overall as a team, they're sitting at 320 at the plate, and then of course. I'm with you. The fact that they lost so much from last year, and we've seen other
Yeah.
teams lose and just haven't been the same. You know, right? They lost lost a lot from last year, and then they just come back. You know, again, their postseason run wasn't easy by any means. Don Bosco is going to be one of the tougher games that you've faced, but I think this shows a lot because a win against St. Ansgar, a win against Don Bosco, a win against Janesville. That's impressive. You've gone through really 3 of arguably the top 15, 20 teams in Class 1A. You managed to do something right. But yeah, again, they haven't given up more than 3 runs in every postseason game. And meanwhile, they've had 4 or 5 runs each time. So they're hitting that run differential on the right mark. And I think that, they've got a lot of names that will make some big waves here. I can't necessarily count them. I know that they are technically a lower seed, but Kate, it's impossible for me to view them as such. You know, they went through the gauntlet of their sub-state. I don't know how it's just a formality at this point for me.
Yeah, I mean, we're down to the top 8 teams. Everyone here is very well qualified to be here. Moving on to the 7 seed, North Lynn, who pulled off a kind of a stunner in 10 innings against Wapsie Valley. Wapsie Valley, a team that led in just basically every offensive category. I know a large part of that was because they played 40 games, but still, nevertheless, 32-8 for the Warriors. This was the top seed in that bracket, and North Lynn goes and takes them down, and they do it with Beacon, Rao, and Zimmerman pitching. And if I'm looking at their stuff, that's not their top innings guys. They didn't even have McCoy Wynn or Cole Griffin. In fact, Beacon has only thrown 7 innings all year long, and he gave him 6 in the 10-inning win. So obviously, if he's coming back from some sort of health thing, you don't know what's quite going on with that. But Beacon, 6 innings, 4 hits, 9 Ks against a really good Wapsie Valley offense is something to follow heading into the state tournament. Obviously, you don't know how that pitching matchup is going to line up, but the Lynx, Andrew, they just seem inevitable. Team is a tough out, and they've proved it in this postseason that they weren't going to go out. They're back in the state tournament.
Yeah, and they've only given up 2 runs the entire time during this postseason. They've been on fire, and they've been a team that's kind of been here, done that before. They've honestly they're walking into their 7th state tournament appearance now. Of course, it'll be their second in 2 years. Back in 2022, the last time that they made it. But man, it's you're right. A lot of guys that have been there. Mason Beacon, as we've talked about for several years, has been. Not as big this year on the base pass, but man, they have been huge overall. And a guy that I think you can't overlook, a guy that should be on your radar right now is Cole Griffith, the junior, one of the better stolen basemen in the state now, 33 stolen bases. Beacon as well, 33. Your matches right on up there. You get 2 of those guys on, and it's just really tough because now you have to play. Now you have to play with, oh man, he's easily on at second. This team has one of the best percentages in terms of runners in scoring position across 1A. They have been very efficient with that. That's where they're going to get you here. They're going to get a guy on at second really quickly, And you know what? A pass ball and boom, a wild pitch pass ball, and you have a guy at third. That's what they do here. And again, as you mentioned, their top strikeout thrower didn't with Griffith didn't take it. But McCoy Wynn, as you mentioned, Rao. I mean, I love what those guys bring. Zimmerman as well. It's a fun group. They got it going, and I think they well deserve their spot here in the state tournament.
Yeah, starting lineup for them in that sub-state game went junior, eighth grader, freshman, sophomore, eighth grader, freshman. So no seniors started in that lineup for them in the sub-state final. So this is a youthful team, a team that's going to be back with a lot of power, next year too. So definitely interesting following these types of teams. The 8th seed though, Bedford, 20-10, a team I'll say I don't think we've talked about all year long. They find a way to get it done against Tri-Center. This was the sub-state that was gettable. This was a sub-state with no ranked teams in it. Bedford finds a way to do it, and man, by the skin of their teeth, they beat Mount Air 6-3, Martinsdale St. Mary's 4-3, Southwest Valley 2-0, and then they find a way to beat Tri-Center 7-4. They put up 2 in the top of the 7th. That was a one-run game heading into the final frame. Andrew, Bedford, 8 seed. Expectations obviously in the state tournament are low. Everything's off of you. There's no pressure on you. Why do you think Bedford could be scary against the Akron Westfield team that's hasn't been there for a while?
Well, man, I got to tell you, Bedford, they don't let up. You know, you mentioned it, and that was one of the things I was going to bring up. How late in the game did they really put this one away? They're scary because they hang around. They're just not going to let go. And two guys that you have to know right off the bat, Brody King and Isaac Dukes, both of them 3 hits in that overall win here, 10 hits for them total. And if you can take 10 hits against a good Tri-Center pitching staff, I think you got a lot in store, a lot to like. This is a team that can do it all. Really, they've had 4 walks in it. They didn't have a stolen base, so what they do is that they just give good hitting, right? And that's what they bring to the table. I think that honestly, I think they were overlooked a bit. I think that this was a team that, again, we haven't talked about, as you mentioned, but they got overlooked. And in the end, that was what ends up stunning a lot of teams here. And again, pitching wise, they only did it with one pitcher, right? They beat Tri-Center with one guy, Clement Only, who went 7 innings. He only gave up 3 earned runs, and he didn't give up a single walk. So if you're looking for another X factor here, my guess optimally, you would like the same guy that takes down the sub-state final to go into the state tournament as well. So might end up seeing him there as well. Again, who knows how that'll work out, but I think they're bend and break, right? They gave up 7 hits, still didn't take down the loss. So I think they got it. They're going to come in and they're just going to hang with you. And like we've talked about with Remsen and other big teams, if you hang with teams long enough, there will be a window in which you can strike. And they found a way to do it in the sub-state final.
No doubt. Your Class 1A field set. We're going to have more bracket breakdowns. We'll probably do picks and whatnot in the next few days. We're going to transition over to Class 2A and break down the field briefly for you and how they got here, starting with the 1 seed in Underwood, Andrew. This was the sub-state final I was the most excited for. Underwood and Clarinda, Tuzio and Louette. Obviously, I had Clarinda in my little bracket pick as my stunner. That did not go well. Underwood made me eat my words. 27-2 entering the state tournament. Garrett Louette, 7 innings, 3 hits, 1 walk, 14 Ks against the Hawkeye 10 champs. Tuzio, they got to him too. Tuzio is an incredible pitcher. They were able to put 3 up against him. This Underwood team, especially with all of the top dogs falling out of this bracket, Andrew, Underwood, if you're an Eagle, you gotta like how this is lining up at that state tournament.
Well, and the fact that they were able to win off of just 5 hits in that sub-state final against, like you mentioned, Tuzio, who went 100 pitches, right? He went as far as he could. This is a team that will take you as far as you can stretch offensively and defensively, right? They'll really stretch your pitching, and they are the biggest test in my mind to anybody's depth. How deep are you in your bullpen? Because you can't always rely on that starter to just throw out there and gun, because Clarinda is a perfect example. Tuzia went out as far as he could go, and still, you know what? Sometimes offense just isn't there for you. And so you got to find ways to win here. You got to find ways to manufacture some good outings. And this is what Underwood gives you. I don't not much more to say than that. Underwood for me is one of the clear favorites going in, just because of the uncertainty that we've had. And when you look last year with what Beckman did, they were one of the mainstays in the postseason. They ended up making their way and winning it. So you know, again, Underwood's been there. They didn't lose anybody, so I just can't count against them. But I wouldn't be surprised if someone else shines as well.
Right. Well, and your 2 seed entering it is a team that's well deserved to be here. This is a team that's slowly climbed our Class 2A poll. Sumner Fredericksburg took down a really good Anamosa team. That was a really fun sub-state final too. That one went 5-3. But Sumner Fredericksburg, the name here, Tatum Nuss. He's the junior shortstop for them. Here's a member of our top 100 list. Again, top 100 guys on Class 2A is on Rockfin. If you're not subbed and you're interested, I'm sure we'll do more lists entering the state tournament about who to watch. But Tatum Nuss is one of the premier guys in Class 2A in this entire state tournament. 60 total bases. He's slashing 470, 546, and 723. This guy's leading the way. They got Jamison Howard as well. He went yard in the sub-state final. He also pitched extremely well. Andrew, Sumner Fredericksburg, we've talked about him, but this is a team that's just quietly taking care of a good sub-state, and here they are in the state tournament. They've won a few close games to get here, but now here they are with Wilton as their first round matchup in the 2 seed.
Yeah, and this is going to be a fun matchup here. I think what I really like to see here is what Patience can bring you at the plate. Rice Land, the junior, 20 walks on the year alone, and he's still with that batting over 300. He's doing a fantastic job, batting nearly 380, I should say. He's kind of the kind of the X factor for them. But Tatum Nuss, as you mentioned, just 11 strikeouts on the year. He's been phenomenal. He's walked 12 times, and in the end, he has sprayed it all over. 3 home runs for him as well. I like the chances for them. Again, they've been slowly rising through the ranks. I mean, they wins over West Liberty, Alburnett, of course, Anamosa, Hudson. We talked about them as a strong team. So they're riding high. 4 wins out of their last 5 games. They can make it in easy. And I mean, when you sit here atop the North Iowa Cedar East standings and you're into the postseason, you have a good chance of going far anyway. And they managed to do that. Again, just 4 losses on the year. Kudos for them, and they rightfully deserve their spot.
No doubt. Well, this is the final ranked team that we have. Our final ranked team, I should say, in our final poll, New Hampton. And this is a team I really like. I haven't been able to see them in person, but just following what they've done, I've become a fan. They took down Denver. You got to give your flowers to Denver, a 7-win team. Found their way all the way to the sub-state final. Obviously, couldn't get it done against New Hampton, the Chickasaws, but I'm gonna give Denver and the Cyclones a nice little round of applause because that was an incredible run. But New Hampton, what you need to know here is Braden McShane. He's an excellent running back. I remember covering him all football season. He's bringing in 80 total bases in the state tournament, 43 RBI, 4 homers. This guy's scary, and they got Cale Myers leading the way on the mound. 10-0 in 9 starts. So he's even found a way to get a win in the relieving role. He's thrown over 1,000 pitches this year. He's got over 100 strikeouts. He's got an ERA and WHIP right at 1. New Hampton, I think this is my sneaky favorite team in the state tournament, Andrew, and they've well deserved a spot in this field.
It's true. I mean, and what they did is, again, I'll echo what you said here. A big kudos to Denver and making it work. I'm a big fan of when it comes to the postseason. You saying, heck with your record, heck with our record, we're gonna win, and that's what Denver did. And again, kudos to where they're at, to what they were able to do. And I think that I think you got to give flowers to them. But yeah, as for the Chickasaws, I like McShane. I do like in the fact that he showed up in a big moment. 4 hits for him. In the end, man, sometimes that it's just kind of interesting how things fall out. But this has been a team that has historically been known for great pitching. Obviously, you got Cole McDonald, who's in the Astros organization right now, being a big name out of that. But they've been known for their pitching. They've been known for doing a lot. But Pickar and Rockford as well are two underclassmen that will make an impact. They've each added a stolen base in the game here in the sub-state final. So they're going to be ones to watch as well. So got to be on the lookout, not just for what the Chickasaws can do pitching wise, but what they can do in every other aspect.
No doubt. 4 seed entering the state tournament. This is where the unranked craziness happens. Sheraton. Story here is obviously this is a team that took down Van Meter in that district final, and then they relatively cruise in the sub-state against OABCAG. Sheraton, Andrew, we actually talked about them. They snuck into our
Yeah.
rankings, and we mentioned how this could be a threat to Van Meter. I don't think any of us saw that actually going down. I think what's crazy too is Van Meter found a way to tie that in the bottom of the 7th. Then Sheraton, in extra innings with the momentum against them, still finds a way to get it done. This is a team with multiple guys on our top 100 junior list: Offenberger and Oxenrider Brock. But Sheraton, I think the story with them is this team can hit, and this team is going to put up runs in the state tournament. And they got an intriguing matchup with Pleasantville.
Well, and the thing about it is, they've got youngsters on the mound. I mean, you saw Jace Gwynn and Keegan Evans do some great work. They combined to ultimately allow just 7 hits overall. I like the fact that they're sitting here going, man, we haven't been talked about. We've had a great season, and here we are. You got to talk about us now. And I mean, it's hard not to. They've done a lot here, and they've limited an OABCIG team that came in fairly strong offensively. In the end, give a shout out to the entire pitching staff throughout the year for Sheraton, because they've done this routinely. OABCIG put up 8 hits, and that did include a double, still unable to manufacture it around. So that tells me that the pitching bent, but it didn't break. And when you can do that, you can allow a lot of hits and still not allow a lot of runs. So in the end, and then of course when you wear them down, you get that 5-run late inning for Sheraton at the end of that game to really seal the deal. So this is where it gets dangerous here, and I'll say this is kind of akin to the Van Buren team from last year that upended Midland. You know what, they've got a lot cooking on a lot of different fronts. So I think this is going to be a fun team. Again, Sheraton is one of those teams. You mentioned Oxenrider Brock, and he's been a good man on the base pass as well. Page, Jensen, Shore, all those guys are going to do a lot. Quentin Gruwell as well. He's the courtesy runner, but he ended up picking up 2 stolen bases as well. So they're going to hit you on all fronts, and I think Sheraton showed that they are arguably one of the more dangerous teams in the field now.
Yeah, this 4-5 matchup is going to be really fun, Andrew, because Pleasantville is one of my favorite teams in all of Class 2A, and they made it out of the sub-state of death. I-35, Des Moines Christian, Pella Christian. It's Pleasantville that finds a way out of it. This team had been in our rankings kind of towards the back end of the 15-16 range, fell back out. This team has won 6 in a row, and in fact, their last loss was to Sheraton on June 26th. So stuff is happening here. We get a rematch of this. Pleasantville is a youthful team. This is a team with multiple guys in the top 5 of our freshman top 25, and Braden Kennedy, Braylon Bingham, and JJ Phillips. In fact, all 3 of those guys are in our top 10. JJ Phillips is a fun name to watch. I got to tell you, when you check these guys out at the state tournament. But with all the youth, it was the senior Dylan Aldrich getting the win on the mound, shutting down a really good Des Moines Christian offense. And you got to give him his flowers. But this is a team led by Braden Kennedy. He's going to look to probably take the mound in that quarterfinal game. Andrew, the Trojans, they're youthful, they're fun. We've talked about how the ceiling for this team is so high. They've got 10 losses. You can tell they've been going through some growing pains, but here they are, 3 wins away from a state title. What do you like about Pleasantville?
A lot of what you said. I do like the fact that they have been the only team to blank Des Moines Christian this year, and again, for good reasons. It's been tough. Again, there have been some times where they've had their ups and downs, certainly, but I like Bingham here, and I like what they've got at the top of the lineup there. And honestly, you get freshman, sophomore, freshman. That's the top end of what their lineup's going to look like. You got Cook again, We mentioned him as well, but my gosh, what I do love is that the fact is you get the win on the mound for Aldrich as well. Kennedy steps in, does what he needs to do. I just think that this is a youthful team that I think, are finding their stride. And the dangerous part is you can have a youthful team, but if they find the stride at the right time, like they're doing right now, it's arguably one of the tougher roads that you're going to face going up against them. I do love the fact that in the end, they didn't need a ton in the game. I mean, ultimately, you take a look at this, they too nearly got blanked. So, I mean, give a shout out to Des Moines.
Oh, my bad. Go ahead.
Oh, that's all right. We like to take calls, I just pop them on next time. But, from Isenhart, of course, to the rest of the pitching staff for Des Moines Christian, they put it to him as well. So you can win 2-0 game off of 2 hits. Yes, you're doing something right here as well. And of course, Bingham and Phillips being those two freshmen to catch the win. And you know what? In the swan song for their head coach, I think it's something special. I really think it's a really cool story. Heading off at the end of the year, wouldn't it be cool for him to go ahead and capture a state title along the way? Again, stories, you can't write stories any better than that, but they still have to find a way to win. I think they got a good chance, though.
No doubt. How about another shocker? Applington Parkersburg. This was a sub-state that we thought was West Marshall's, and let alone it's Applington Parkersburg and Roland Story in that sub-state final. Really good game, 2-1 final. The Falcons, just a team that's just kind of lied in the weeds. They got really good 7 innings from Preston Jansen, who isn't even their innings leader. It's Devin Davis, who I'm going to expect to take that ball in the quarterfinal. 60 innings and 92 Ks from him, the senior, all year long. But AP, Andrew, they had a tough road. They had some really nice wins in throughout their sub-state. Obviously, beating Grundy Center and West Marshall is no easy task, and then going to Roland Story. This is a fun team, and it's a team that we don't know a lot about, but I think it's obviously you're amongst the top 8. You're a threat in this field.
And how good is it to have this story? First time for them to make it to state is absolutely a thriller. And what just adds so much content to the story is that how do you get there to your first ever state tournament appearance? You beat arguably the toughest, if not the toughest team in the class in West Marshall. And I think their pitching has just as much to do with their hitting, right? In fact, I'd even say more so. They've given up just 2 runs all postseason, and you're right. They have kind of waited in the wings. They've done what they needed to do, but gosh, this is a group that came together at the right time, and it's not like we're sitting here though saying, man, what a 4-win team making it to state, right? No, this is an 18-win campaign, and they're again on a roll here, 5-0 here, ultimately 18-7 on the year, and they've just got guys who can rock and roll. You mentioned on the mound, Devin Davis, the senior, rocking it there, 92 strikeouts. Again, as I mentioned, under 30 in the entire state of Iowa have 90 or more Ks. He is one of them. Preston Jansen obviously is a guy that you mentioned as well. But I think what I like here is Wes Shirk as well. He's a guy that can come in. He's given 17 strikeouts. I think him, Hoff, those guys can come in, make a good bullpen. I think that they can really get there. I think that they have enough for their starting pitching to get them deep into 2 consecutive games, should they make it so. But then on top of that, I like Nehmeyer. I really like Tate Nehmeyer, the senior. He has come up strong almost every game this year. 34 hits for him, slugging at a clip of over 500. He's the guy to watch offensively, and I think they're going to try. He's going to be targeted, but you got Davis, Jacobson, Jansen, Neroth, all those guys who have the capability of getting on themselves. So Cinderellas happen all the time, Kate. It happens all the time. AP could be that, but they've got to. The thing is, for me, they've gone against the toughest test that I think you could see this year.
Right.
And now what you go, man, we could do that. We can do this, but don't rest on your laurels, right? Because Pella Christian last year took down Van Meter, and they unfortunately didn't get to where they wanted to go. So don't rest on the wins you've just had, but I think they account for something.
Well, yeah, they're going to get the night game on Tuesday night at Merchants Park, and let me tell you, the night games in those state
Ooh,
tournaments
love those.
are always just special. So that one's going to be a ton of fun. The 7th seed, though, the game right before them is Wilton. Now, Andrew, I remember last year we actually went down to Busch Stadium in St. Louis and saw Wilton and Williamsburg
Yep.
play scrimmage, whatever we call it. And I remember how youthful that team was and how much they returned. Now, I didn't think a state tournament was in the cards by any means, but here they are, 21-10. They won their 4 postseason games by 3 runs, 1 run, 3 runs, and then 1 run. So this is a team that's found a way to scrape and claw. Like it's really nothing sexy when you look at them, but this is a team that's just found ways to win down the stretch. And they're led by a lot of juniors, a few seniors throwing their hands in there too. Carter Hull, Owen Hassel, 58 and 59 total bases respectively. This is just a well-balanced team. They're bringing some arms in that can throw. They got 2 guys with 50+ innings to their name. Wilton, here they are. It's their time. This is a fun team. We got to see them last year, and now they get a tough task in Sumner Fredericksburg. But this is a Wilton team that's deserved this spot amongst these 8 teams.
Yeah, I mean, the thing for me is the biggest test for them didn't necessarily come. Cascade's a big test, but it came against Northeast,
Yeah.
and they found a way to win that game. And that as a team, they hit just 208 in that game. They still found a way to scratch across 7 total bases, get there, and then Tipton, a good Tipton team, they upset Durant too. So this was kind of a little bit of upset city here in the grand scheme, especially with Beckman going down. But yeah, Wilton's going to be that team that it just scrapes around, gets there, and I think they're very comfortable getting being under the radar here. Gonna be kind of tough now here, but with 2 hits apiece from Reed and Hall, and of course, as I also look at Reed and Hall, those guys are definitely going to lead the way as you mentioned here. But I got to say, I like Putman. I like Willie. Both of those guys on the mound help really go through strong. And the fact is nobody touched up 100 pitches for them. So they've got some flexibility to work with for sure. I'm not just talking about coming up with their first game, but potentially down the road. This is a team that could set up nicely as you go deeper into the postseason. In the end, Cascade is a team that hits a lot. They only gave up 4 hits to Cascade. So, again, you're at the point now where everybody's a dog, right? And everybody has earned their right to be here. Wilton certainly has. And, for them, it hasn't been as long as we would think so. I mean, 2018 is the last time that they graced the state tournament. But the thing is, they are 9-4 in state tournament games. They have experience winning some of the biggest games of their seasons. They've been there 6 times. They have 9 wins. So what that tells me is they're capable of winning the first round games pretty easily. This is not it's as far from a shoe-in as possible. And I think Wilton is going to prove that they're going to be a tough out, if not take the win here in round 1.
There you have it. Well, the biggest underdog technically in the Class 2A field is Unity Christian, and I'm kind of shocked this was the 8 seed. I've really
Me
liked this
too.
Unity Christian team. I mean, they scraped and clawed their way here. There's no doubt. 1-run win over Cherokee Washington. It took 9 innings to beat West Lyon. They ended up winning by 3, but that took 9 innings, and then they go and they beat Esterville Lincoln Central on the road. Now Unity Christian, you see 25-11. You might shrug your shoulders at that, but this is a team that has some really high-profile wins. They've got some really high-profile arms in the Bosma brothers and Kean Emmelkamp. This is a team with a lot of experience. They have multiple guys on their top 100 list. Braden Bosma is one of them, the junior. He's hitting 417 with 77 total bags right now. He's their offensive leader by far. And I mean, this is not like Underwood would sleep on anybody anyway at this point, but this especially as a 25-win team entering the state tournament, tons of high-profile wins, tons of high-profile experience in the postseason. I remember filming Unity Christian a few years back in this state tournament when I first started doing this type of thing. But Unity Christian is one of my favorites in this field. I've really enjoyed following what they've done all year, Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, and when you take a look, there are just 3 guys in the top 15 that right now reside in the state tournament in terms of total bases, right? Bozema being one of them. And the guy goes through what he needs to do. And, he has nearly 20 extra base hits on the year, which is something stellar to think about. This is a team that ultimately I was also kind of surprised that they were not higher on the list. They've had some really high profile wins over the course of their time, including the team that they took out to go here to state and ELC. And, across that, you also beat West Lyon team, and you did that really not handle you, but you won that one as well. But it's a team that's had their time in the limelight. And for the most part, you mentioned 25 wins. They come up, they take it. This is a team who's gone up against a lot, including the likes of Sioux City North in 4A. They've had a lot of big wins on the year, including Remsen St. Mary's across the 1A scene. But from Galen Catholic, again, as I mentioned, they've also won a game against Akron Westfield, blanking them 7-0. So there's something to be said there. They play a lot. I think ultimately, maybe the 1A schedule that they face, again, it's not primarily, but a good number of 1A teams that they face, maybe that's how they end up as that 8th seed. Ultimately, I just don't know or get it, but I like it. They've kept things close. They haven't allowed more than 3 runs in any postseason game up to this point. And I think ELC with Larson and company, they were a strong pitching squad that really tested your bats and tested the depth of your lineup. Underwood is going to do that to like the nth degree, right? Pick your number. So this is a team, though, I feel is not a true 8. I just don't. I think Unity Christian has as the capability of going as far, as deep as humanly possible, honestly. And for the fact that this is the first matchup between them and Underwood, let's go. Let's light some fireworks up. I think this is going to be a good game.
Andrew, didn't you have Unity Christian too? I believe you pegged him. I mean, I'm surprised you didn't bring that up in our sub-state brackets. I'm saying how much I like Unity Christian, and I had ELC in my sub-state going. So congrats to Andrew. I haven't even looked really. I just looking at this field, I know I did not pick many of these teams to be here, but we all know that was for fun, anyways. But no, we appreciate everyone for tuning in. There you go, Class 1A, 2A. The field is broken down. Keep in touch with us. We're going to have Rockfin stuff coming out. We're going to have more stuff on YouTube, breaking down the field, probably telling Andrew and I trying to take another stab at a bracket, even though we probably should never go near one based on how we've done this postseason. But no, it was a ton of fun. Postseason's around the corner. 3A, 4A tonight. I'm sure we'll be doing this type of thing again tomorrow, breaking down that field. Tons of fun. This is why we do it these next few weeks. I can't wait. I know Andrew, you can't either. This is going to be crazy. So giddy up, buckle up, strap in for the ride. We're here to be your conductor and show you everything you need to know. So appreciate you for tuning in. We'll catch you next time, Class 1A and 2A fans.